Any good stories from the road?
Pipe up.
I wish we'd gotten to see a little bit more out of our punter.
I'm starting to puke.
It makes my stomach hurt.
I thought he was going to die.
I'm starting to throw up in my mouth a little bit.
He's on the probiotics.
Is Georgia playing the 1985 Bears this weekend or what?
A lot of Todd talk.
Rat poison proof.
They're mongoose.
We will not be hunted at the University of Georgia. I can promise you that. The hunting that we do will be done from us going the other direction.
Hey, y'all, let me unmute my mic here. Welcome in. It's the Georgia Show. I know there's allegedly a Georgia basketball game going on right now up in Knoxville, but we will keep you entertained and abreast of a lot of things going on with the football team right now because that's probably more fun to talk about. What's up, Jake?
Hey, man, that basketball game is not going too well right now. We'll revisit it if it is, if it takes a turn for the better. Right now, not doing great.
Yep, we'll keep you posted on the comeback of the century. Until that happens, let's jump right into the news of the day, I believe, and it's that kind of that time of year. It's mock draft season, man, and I started here about a year ago, exactly, give or take a few days, and I just remember all the hype, all the buzz was about those, 15 guys, however many guys we thought it was going to be at the time that were going to get drafted. Right now, it's all about the mailman and what Mel Kiper Jr. had to say about him going in the third round. That caused some waves today.
Trent Dilfer said the same thing about 2-3 months ago. Trent Dilfer, now head coach at University of Alabama, Birmingham. He was at the time the head coach at Lipscomb Academy or whatever there in Nashville and appearing on the Ryan Russillo show. And, listen.
Yelling
Trent
at
Dilfer,
kids.
What's that now?
Yelling at kids.
Yeah, yelling at kids. I mean, I'm sure he was doing it the right way. Trent Dilfer is an equal opportunity lover of quarterbacks. I've learned that over the years. He likes them all. Because listen, I mean, I don't care if you're Stetson Bennett or if you are the starting quarterback at Valdosta State, harking back to Buster Faulkner back in 2002, 2001, 2002, or if you are, Patrick Mahomes, you're good. You're better than so many others that do it. And I think that's the approach that kind of Trent Dilfer takes. But he said the same thing, and I kind of agree with him. Not necessarily because I think he's just this like special talent, but he knows how to win. He's got a little moxie to him. I don't think he cares what people think. I really don't. Like he may pay attention to it, and he may channel it in such a way that it motivates him. But I don't think it really bothers him. I don't think he takes it to heart. And I don't know. I agree. I think an NFL team is going to end up taking him either late day 2 or very early day 3. I don't necessarily – I wouldn't say third. I would kind of hedge my bets and say I don't think he gets out of the 4th round, but Stetson's going to get picked. And I'm interested to see how it goes for him. I'm interested to see if it turns into a Charlie Whitehurst, Chase Daniel type situation, or if it turns into a Brock Purdy situation. Because I do believe if he ever gets an opportunity, he'll show it. I don't know if you remember this, Wes. You may have been how old are you? You're 33?
Yeah.
Yeah, 33. Do you remember when Eric Zier got a chance with the Buccaneers?
No, I'm not. I was not well versed enough in my Dogs.
Yeah, I remember when Easy got a chance with the Buccaneers, and I want to say it was like early on in the regular season. He ran a ball in. They weren't a very good team, but he got a shot, and he showed some things. I think Stetson might kind of have that same sort of debut, and I think it'll be received differently now than it was then. I think now's NFL sets up a little bit better for Stetson Bennett.
When you look back historically at Georgia quarterbacks, there hasn't really been much middle ground. It's been Matthew Stafford, Fran Tarkenton, and everybody else. And my guy Shock, I wished that he had a chance. If not for an injury there with the Falcons, that could have been a really great story. But it didn't shake out for Aaron Murray. one of the greatest quarterbacks in SEC and Georgia history. Didn't shake out for David Green. He was one of those legendary college quarterbacks. No knock on him. It just didn't work out in the pros. So, in the same thing with Jake Fromm, who got drafted, in the 5th? Was it the 5th round for Jake?
Yeah, I believe so.
So, yeah, I in my gut feel like Stetson will go higher than that. What do you make of the report today? I think Outkick the Coverage had it first from Jim Nagy that Stetson will not play in the Senior Bowl.
Do
you think that hurts him, drops him a round or a round and a half, or what?
It doesn't help him. I mean, it definitely doesn't help him. I think Stetson, listen, I don't think this is, and I don't think this is make or break, and I don't think this is a character issue. And, God knows, as much as I've defended Stetson Bennett over the years, I hope he doesn't read some headline that hears me saying this and think that I've all of a sudden turned into a hater. I think it's a bad decision. I think he should go and ball and be Stetson. I get it. Buck Bellew said it really well. He's played 30 games the past 2 years. He's the only player in college football to do that. The only quarterback in college football. The mental load, the emotional load of playing, 30 games the past 2 seasons. That's a lot. That is a lot. And so I definitely get it. But I think Stetson should play. I think he should go put a few deep balls on the number. I think he should go and show kind of his twitch and ability to get away from the rush. I think it'd be a good deal. I've got a story pre-written for him to accept a bid to the Senior Bowl. I got to delete it. It's got to go off into the ether now. I had just good story. One of the top, 250,000 I've ever written.
It was going to set records at DawgsHQ.
It was going to set records for Stetson Bennett, for the best story ever written, about Stetson Bennett accepting a Reese's Senior Bowl. Almost every single time I say that, Wes, I want to say Reese's Peanut Butter Bowl. Well, I don't know why. It just flows right out.
The marketing in that event that I would not watch a second of if I didn't work in this industry, but I do watch it because there's a story every 5 minutes on a Georgia player these days, it seems like.
Yeah.
The marketing works, man.
Yeah, it does.
I can't watch the coverage of it all week without going out and picking up more Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
God, I thought you were about to tell me that you couldn't watch it because you didn't like Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
No. The exact opposite.
I was, man, we were going to have to make some tough decisions.
I start to get the sugar sweats every time I watch it.
I had one today. Like I had you can get the single big cup at the Kroger checkout.
What, like the 4-pounder?
No, just the one single big cup.
Oh, yeah.
One thick cup. And I grabbed one of those, couple hundred calories.
Easy.
kind of a treat. So I had one of those in a bottle of water. But I really do believe Stetson should have participated. I think he could have helped himself. Is it going to mean the difference in getting drafted or not? No. But I do believe Stetson could have kind of come in and with all of his experience, being a 25-year-old dude and kind of the situations that he had been in terms of a national championship, SEC championship, college football playoff last 2 years, I think his nerves would have been down, would have been maybe in a better spot than others. And I think he could have performed and maybe made a name for himself.
Yeah. Here's what it kind of reminds me of, and I know it's a different situation, but last year at Georgia's Pro Day, Stetson could have been the quarterback throwing deep balls to Pickens and getting some work in front of all those scouts. And there was kind of a murmur, a buzz, like, why isn't Stetson doing this? If he really wants a shot to get drafted, wouldn't you think he would want to display it now? And Carson Beck was the guy that was getting to throw footballs in front of, Mike Tomlin and Bill Belichick. So I see it both ways. I understand what you're saying. Why not do that extra work? But maybe he is kind of playing things close to the vest and not wanting to put things out there to be dinged further. You can't prove a negative. I know you can ding him for not going to the Senior Bowl or for not throwing last year. Obviously, I would think he would work out at the House of Pain when the scouts come for Pro Day this year. But maybe he just doesn't want to put too much out there and continue to be out in front of scouts and have them say, man, he's tiny, like, I don't know. There's a lot of counsel. There's a lot of advice that goes into that. And when you're already being doubted, I can see why you'd probably want to just make the most of those moments that you do get, like the real combine and Georgia's pro day.
Well, they're going to have plenty of opportunity to size him up. I mean, I would be shocked if he doesn't get invited to the combine. And if he gets invited, he's going to show up. Whether he works out or not, he's going to show up and do some interviews. So I think, I don't necessarily think that he's worried about people sizing him up. I get the apprehension of the Senior Bowl because you go out there and, you are doing different interviews and talking with different organizations and meeting different scouts. And if you're a little off, maybe that hurts you. Stetson, listen, he's got a lot to lean on because, I talked about those 30 starts and how exhausting those were. That's 30 starts. That's 30, not necessarily 30 starts, but I guess because JT Daniels started 3 games last year, but it's 30 games and it's 30, and you're talking about 6 postseason games. You're talking about MVP in 5 of those 6. So we start kind of, I think, answering our question there at some point there when you start talking about what he did in game action. And again, I really think that he missed an opportunity to maybe really impress, but he maybe also missed an opportunity to fail. And at this time of year, failure is not rewarded. Nobody's sitting there, hey man, good job, pat you on the back. You went out there and you gave it a shot and you failed, and we respect you for that. Nobody does that this time.
No, they're looking for reasons to axe him out, drop him, not pick him. Here's what Stetson had to say. By the way, he won the Manning Award. We immediately pivot into draft talk, and that's
Manning.
Congrats to Stetson winning the Manning Award. But this is what he had to answer, how he started his answer in that Manning Award acceptance about people doubting his pro potential.
The NFL draft, you're already being discounted. Does that kind of irritate you a little bit?
I told people,
wow.
My dog just threw up. We'll clean that up later.
So, yeah, just because of that, some scout out there is already saying, drop him. His dog throws up.
Dude, I'll never forget the first day. So my first day teaching, teaching over at Cedar Shoals High School, I wake up in the morning and, I kind of wake up, I go in the bathroom and all of a sudden you just hear it. The dog is heaving. The old yellow lab, Rennie, named after Rennie Curran. She's heaving, and it sounds like she's about to turn loose, just a whole gut full of everything. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's my first day. I'm running late. Here we go. Got to drive across town. Lived on the west side, coached on the east side of Athens, taught on the east side of Athens. And, she threw up 9 pieces of dog food at one time onto the carpet that I had to clean up. But what a panicky feeling for Stetson, but what a funny moment. I've shown my kids that clip about 5 times, Wes, and they just laugh every single time.
I don't know what kind of dog he has. Someone tweeted at us and said something about, man, Uga's not feeling too great. And that just cracked me up because the thought of Stetson just gets Uga because he won back-to-back national championships is also a pretty cool thought.
Blue heeler. I'm going to choose to believe he has an Aussie Shepherd or a blue heeler, a cow dog or something of the sort, with the Nahana and Blackshear background. But I think Stetson's going to get drafted. Stetson's going to be fine in the NFL. He's going to make some money. And he, he's going to save a lot more money than I save because he's not going to have to pay for a drink at Normal Bar or Little Kings or All Good or Cutters or you name it.
Marker 7. He's going to have a nice red tail snapper anytime he wants to go in. How about this? Before we move on here, true or false, Jake? I'm trying to find the comment. Someone said if Stetson was 6'2", he'd be going in the first round. If not, in the top 10. What do you think about that? It's just the height that's holding him back.
If Stetson is 6'2", Stetson is not. Has already been in the league for 3 years. He didn't win a couple national championships as a Bulldog. Stetson Bennett was probably Georgia's starting quarterback and scholarship guy starting in 2017. I mean, all sorts of history is out of whack. Maybe Georgia wins in 2017. I don't know, but Stetson's a really talented cat, man. And the fact that he is 5'11", and I want to say this to people: Stetson's 5'10" plus, probably 5'11". Anybody who's talking about 5'8", 5'9", he's not. I am a legit 5'9", 5'9", and like maybe an eighth or whatever. Stetson's taller than I am.
Well, according to the internet, Jake, he's 5'8" and 35 years old. So
yeah.
The stats are a little off.
He's a 5'10" and a half minimum, 25-year-old. And but if he was 6'2", I don't think he wins 2 national championships at Georgia. Max 1. He doesn't win the 2021 or 2022 national championship at Georgia because he's long gone by then, because he's that talented. He's that athletic. He's a good player. I believe in him, and I think he's going to do some good things. By the way, Wes, you're bringing up this breaking tea thing. My wife, I opened a package the other day. My wife just said, to heck with it. We're getting breaking teas for her and the kids. She's a Georgia grad, double dog. And she ordered the Between the Hedges where the champions play. And it has the national championship years on there with the back-to-back 2021, 2022.
Let me find that one.
Yeah, they're loving them. So
which one was it?
It is that one right there on the bottom right there in the middle row between the hedges where the champions play, the red one, right where the cursor is.
Oh, there's stuff on the back, and you can get hoodies.
And you can get a hoodie.
I'm failing at my sponsorship read here.
That's a baller shirt, man. And listen, it's high quality too. It's really high quality. It's well made. The kids love them. I'm really impressed with it. I'm going to see. I was going to hit up Breaking Tees and be like, hey, I got a bunch of nephews. I've got 3 nephews and a niece that their mother is an Auburn fan. And I was thinking about maybe trying to get them some T-shirts and get some photos made. That way we can kind of memorialize them as dog fans.
It seems like there's a new one every time I pull this up. I like this one. That dog will hunt.
Yeah, that's and the britches stripe right there. Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff.
That is good.
I can't lie though. Seeing Will Hunt right there makes me think of Good Will Hunting.
It's not your fault, Josh Heupel. It's not your fault.
Not your fault.
Yeah, y'all check it out. Breaking Tea. I know y'all need a new Georgia t-shirt, hoodie, coffee mug, all the above. The link to Breaking Tea is always in the show description. How about that Josh Heupel extension? What'd you make of that?
It's tough, man, because I really do respect the job that he's done for the past 2 years. But part of me, and I'm a girthy man. A big portion of my mass believes that Josh Heupel kind of stumbled into Hendon Hooker. And I think that because of this, right? I really don't want Tennessee fans like all over my back because I do have a lot of respect for that program. But Scott Frost had UCF doing something. Josh Heupel came in, guys. It was trending down. He took that over, and
Josh Heupel born on third base at UCF.
Yeah, at UCF, it trended down. Now he got the Tennessee job, and he turned it around. But did he turn it around because? Did he turn it around because he evaluated and he, acquired, or did he turn it around just kind of because some things kind of, fell in his lap? And I don't know that answer. I believe in his scheme. I really do. I believe that year after year, I don't care who you are, year after year, everybody tries and thinks maybe, okay, you're going to figure this thing out, and you don't, because they're going to split those receivers out outside the numbers, and they're going to set you up in a, hey, are you declaring? Are you covering? Or are you playing the run? There's none of this like nickel blitz against Tennessee. I mean, they really kind of take that out of the picture. But is Jalen Hyde on the roster? Is Cedric Tillman on the roster? Is Hendon Hooker on the roster? Are they going to be as good on the offensive line? They haven't recruited as good as they did when they had, when they had Darnell Wright and those guys. So I'm interested to see, because it's going to go one way or the other. Either Tennessee's about to be a problem or Tennessee is a paper tiger. And I really believe that, and I lean towards the latter. I think Tennessee is a paper tiger. And I think, I'm one of the ones that, when Georgia's schedule came out, that I felt, hey, Tennessee is going to be really tough to deal with in Knoxville. And then I saw Georgia deal with Tennessee that had zero chance. Not one. Georgia gave them a gift on the first drive of the game and still just beat the piss out of them. Like, over.
So I'm looking at On3's transfer portal tracker right now, and it's a great resource if y'all haven't checked it out. You can toggle teams on this portal tracker and see, where guys are going by school. And I'm looking right now, and I thought, look, if Tennessee hasn't recruited that well, how are they doing in the portal? And you can look and see the teams that have gone, or the players that have gone to Tennessee through the portal. And as of right now, it looks like they have one receiver that they've picked up through the portal, Dante Thornton, out of Oregon. And I'm scrolling. There's a tight end, McCallan Castles, which sounds like a golf course in Scotland.
It sounds like a scotch.
Yeah, it does. Take a sip of that. So, yeah, I mean, to your point, if you want to be a sustainable threat to Georgia in the East, and I wrote about this today, kind of piggybacking off of a USA Today column mentioning how big of a threat LSU is to Bama. LSU and Bama are going to go toe-to-toe for the foreseeable future as long as Saban stays around and Bama is what it is. Bama's not going anywhere. I'm going to get to that in chopping wood. But for years, you had Auburn and Alabama beating each other up, but Bama just being elite. You had LSU and Bama kind of trading blows. Sometimes LSU would get the upper hand, and sometimes Auburn would get the upper hand. But who was going to rise up in the East before these divisions get expansioned out and turn into whatever they are? I mean, Tennessee may never have another chance to be that team, to be the LSU to Georgia's Alabama, if that makes sense. So I just don't know how Tennessee can stack it up if they're not bringing it in the portal, if they're not recruiting like it, and if their offense is such a one-trick pony that Kirby Smart's defense just snuffs it out every time.
One-trick pony, I think, is a little harsh, but Georgia has,
how about a one-trick pony in the context of facing Georgia's defense? They can make you a one-trick pony.
Right. Yeah. I totally agree with that. Georgia's, if Tennessee's offense is a bacteria, if it's strep, Georgia's doxycycline. I mean, because Georgia can just go man on man, play both sides of the block, and keep you from gashing them in the run game with base personnel. But that's not really the story here. The story here is the fact that Georgia, without rain in Sanford Stadium this past year, could have hung 60 on Tennessee. It could have named the score. And Tennessee fans don't want to hear that, because I read VolQuest, okay? I like Brent Hubbs and Austin Price and those dudes. They're good dudes, and I like reading their board because I like reading the information they put out, because they kind of give you some reflections as to, kind of how you can view what you're talking about, right? I see their fans, they're like, well, Georgia only won, what was it, 27-13?
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus Christ, man.
They're
I
a
mean, I
little-
don't know what to tell those Tennessee fans. It could have been 97-13. I mean, Georgia did not have to let off. Georgia they toyed with you. They were that Maine Coon cat that's just sort of swiping at the little ping pong ball on the string. I mean, it was bad. And they don't seem to realize that. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're the ones.
They're all watching the basketball game right now, and that's what they're going to have to talk about.
They're saying just like baseball. Right. I mean, they're not saying anything about football because Georgia could have wishboned them this year. I mean, they could just grab one leg, grab the other one, split them wide open, and have at it. But they didn't.
Could have spatchcocked them. What's up, Jake Roos?
Spatchcocked.
Howdy.
So that was kind of just a brief aside because I brought up Josh Heupel. But once again, guys, the wide receiver position could be an issue for Georgia in 2023. You bring in Ra Thomas, bring in Dominic, and now all of a sudden AD Mitchell's gone and Ra's career is up in the air. And we're not going to speculate. We don't know what's going to happen, so don't ask us about that. But one way or another, how much of a difference does Ra's standing with the team matter for Georgia's depth? Jake, Rowe, is it a make or break deal? Let's say if he can't join the team for 2023.
I don't think it's make or break. I still think here's how much Georgia improved that wide receiver room, not just from recruiting and transfer portal, but from the 2021 class with Dylan Bell. Georgia's still in a lot better shape than they were. Because if you think about this time last year, Jermaine Burton had left. I'm sorry, Georgia fans, to bring up this really bad memory, but Stetson Bennett had decided to stay. And I know for those of you that didn't want that to happen, that's probably a painful memory right now. That's probably a really painful memory because you're getting beaten in the face with that and you deserve it. All right. So, but
no. They're not saying it now.
Yeah. Stetson decided to come back. Jermaine Burton had left. You didn't know how close you came, but Darnell Washington was almost out the door. Okay. He was almost there. Amarius Mims left later, but he too was out the door. Okay. So it was bad. But, you had Ladd McConkey coming back, but you didn't necessarily know Ladd was an 800, 900 total yard guy. You knew what you had in Brock Bowers. No Dominic Lovett. You had AD Mitchell, which you felt good about, but you didn't, Marcus Rosenby-Jackson hadn't done anything really to that point. You didn't really feel confident in him coming back. I think Georgia's still in a lot better shape. And
the class last year did not stack up to this.
Very, very true. Good point, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, Bell was a great find, and I mean, it certainly has panned out for him. But outside of him, I mean, your top-ranked guy on the wide receiver core was Denylon Morissette, number 203 in the nation at the time, and finished that way. So it wasn't like you had a lot of guys. I mean, outside of Bell, there were no real contributors out of that freshman class either. I think that's not going to be the case personally this year. I think that some of these guys can step in and potentially play a role early.
And it really all depends. You've got the Williams kid that is, I mean, obviously size, speed, basketball, raw football ability. But the guy I kind of keep hearing a little bit more, and I'll share that. I mean, this is for the YouTube audience first because I keep hearing about Yaz Haynes. Yep. I mean, Yazeed Haynes. I mean, I keep hearing kind of just like little tidbits of different things that make me think because over the years you hear about, oh, well, so-and-so showed up and man, he's a lot more athletic than we thought. That goes in one ear and out the other. And as big as my head is, that takes 30 seconds.
Let me ask you about Haynes. Yeah, that is a sizable distance.
Yeah, it is 100%
kilometers or miles. Is Haynes a fair comparison? Would you compare him? Is he similar to AD?
No, I would say he's another guy that I would classify in two letters, and that's TK. I think he's more Tavares King
Gosh,
than anything else.
I was team TK. I'm still team TK.
Yeah, me too, dude. Tavares King.
Get him on the show.
I hope he's listening to this, because one of the things that I've always thought about TK is one of his press conferences, one of his media availabilities before he left, he talked about the receiving core in 2013. He said, "Hey, listen, the only thing they're going to be missing next year is a pretty face, because they were losing him." So I love that comment. Roos knows a guy that we used to work at Clark Central, a guy named Aaron Self. He was the defensive coordinator at Clark Central, and they played Hab Central. And I remember him coming in because I worked at Clark Central for a year, and he told me that dude right there, because we were talking about him going into the game. I used to see Aaron Self every day, and he eventually became the head coach at Clark Central. He had worked at the Citadel, and we were talking about TK, and he told me going into the game like the Wednesday before, he goes, I think we got him. And then he saw me on Monday, and the first thing he said from like 100 feet away was like, "We didn't have him." Okay. And that's the first thing he said. Good dude. Love that guy. But also Tavares King, I believe, has two of the best 6 or 7, maybe 8 receiving seasons in Georgia history. You want to look at that 2012 game, and, Georgia having a chance to beat Alabama and Chris Conley dropping that pass. TK made massive plays in that football game. I can't remember what his, but I do believe Yazeed Haynes kind of reminds me of him. Now, I don't know competition level, whatever, but when you hear about a guy being fast or twitchy or playmaking 7-on-7, I don't know. You hear it so many times it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. But when you start hearing about a guy talking about like he's businesslike, he's serious, he talks to people, he does this, those are the kind of things you're hearing about Yazeed Haynes. And I heard those same things about Nakobe Dean right away, Michael Williams right away. He has that kind of seriousness and intentional quality about the way he goes about the game that makes me think he's got a chance to be a really good player.
Yeah,
here's a take from Jarvis Browner in our comments. The loss of Ra Thomas is not that significant at all. Trust me. I don't think Georgia's coaching staff feels that way, because they definitely wanted him really, really bad out of the portal. But that doesn't mean that the depth isn't there to overtake him and make the loss sting a little bit if he is indeed lost. I mean, we don't know that that's going to happen yet. So we want to be clear about that. We don't know. Georgia hasn't decided anything yet. They're going to do their due diligence and run through all the facts, and you can read the report over at DawgsHQ.com. And I'm sure you've probably already made up your mind on what's going to happen, but we will see. There hasn't been anything decided yet. Roos, you mentioned the incoming talent coming in, and I want to touch on the tight ends. Let's just go ahead and get to upcoming signing day news, and also talk about the tight ends that are already secured for Georgia. I mean, if you go through and look at all the pass catchers coming in, it's not a traditional evaluation where you look at only the receivers and you just say, okay, maybe we hit on one of the tight ends. I mean, Georgia's got a grab bag of tight end talent coming in too.
Yeah, no, it's pretty special, man. I've told people, listen, I think Georgia is the team to beat for Deuce Robinson. I think that Georgia is in a great position heading into next week for Deuce Robinson. If you didn't get Deuce Robinson, you'd still be okay at tight end, more than okay. You've got 2 elite players coming in at the tight end position. Pierce Spurlin, I've talked about him on this show several times. I was curious to see how he'd come back from injury. He goes out to San Antonio at the Adidas game, and people said it looked like he never lost a step and probably even got better even after injury. Then you got Lawson Lucky, who comes in, a guy with an ample skill set as well, a lot of speed, great blocker. I think you've got 2 guys already coming in that are outstanding. And then I do like your chances with Deuce Robinson. And you're talking about Deuce Robinson. Anybody who's watched those videos of him at the Polynesian Bowl or whatever, I mean, that's a different cat, man. That's a different dude. No
disrespect to the Polynesian Bowl, by the way. I don't keep up with all the All-Star games. I thought it was like a dipping sauce competition, like a Chick-fil-A deal. I didn't even know they had a Polynesian Bowl.
Yeah. It's actually, it's a genius thing because they, what kid doesn't want to go out to Hawaii and play? But, Deuce Robinson, just like I said, different cat, man. A guy who speed, size, athleticism, catch range, great blocker. What do you want? I mean, the guy is a true do-it-all. I mean, look at dude. He's just skating past people right here.
Kyle Pitts, bro. Kyle Pitts.
I mean, and what is he? 6'6", like 230.
Oh my gosh,
I don't
dude.
care.
Yeah, the double move he just put on there. I'll tell you what, it makes me nervous for the kids that he's playing against, because clearly these guys, I mean, some of them may be like 6'2", but he's so tall, he dwarfs them all. It just makes me feel nervous for him. Makes me feel sad for him, because there's not much they can do at the high school level against this dude.
The biggest obstacle between that cat right there and college football and NFL stardom is a stack of Major League Baseball cash. That's the only thing that stands between him and dominating whatever level he goes to, is the fact that he could make legit cash. I've got a guy that I play golf with from time to time who is a Chicago Cubs scout, and he is very high on this cat. He is, I mean, everybody is. And I think the only thing that it's one of those push and pull deals where the only thing I think that keeps him from being a super high, not necessarily super high, but a high enough draft pick to kind of mess with him, is that he's also a really good football player, probably a better football player than he is a baseball player, which only slightly better. So there's that little bit of conflict there. So maybe a team will back off and, draft him, top 100 instead of top 20. But he is, I'm telling you, I watch him, I see Kyle Pitts. I see what and not only do I see Kyle Pitts, I see what Kyle Pitts did at Florida.
Yeah. I was going to say Kyle Pitts in high school didn't look like this. I mean,
Georgia recruited Kyle Pitts in high school, and I shudder to think about the fact that they may have turned that cat down, but they may have.
Yeah, I think
I don't know they did, but they may have.
Yeah, it didn't seem like they pushed as hard as they could have. At least. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah.
And
I can't not see Kyle Pitts now that you gave that comparison, Ro. I think it's funny that everyone compares him to Jimmy Graham just because he looks like Jimmy Graham. Like he resembles Jimmy Graham. Yeah. I'm not saying he's not comparable to him either. But I think Pitts is way more accurate.
If Jimmy Graham, Eric Stokes, and Deuce Robinson played for Mel Tucker would have had the same nickname for all three guys. I mean, that's just, because they kind of all have they all had the same look, and Mel Tucker used to have a nickname for Eric Stokes, and Kirby Smart used to just bring it up all the time. So, they would have all had the same nickname.
Yeah, I mean, but listen, Robinson, special. I mean, there's no other way to really phrase it. And talking about realistically, I think we've all thought about it, but like when you really get down to the nitty gritty of thinking about pairing a kid with this kind of skill set and size with what they already have, Georgia.
Oh my God, I gotta go back to that one.
Georgia's going to be so far ahead of the game.
Y'all watch this highlight if you're just watching our beautiful faces.
In terms of tight end,
oh my Lord,
yeah. What do you want, man? I mean, in terms of tight end, Georgia has been setting the standard. You add a guy like this, they're ahead of the game by miles.
That's just freakish stuff. There are a lot of times when you watch a kid that is, playing against overmatched competition. I want to say Brock Vandergriff, Jacob Eason come to mind at the quarterback positions. You wonder, like, okay, is he good or is he just playing against scrubs?
No, Darnell Washington was like that in high school. I remember seeing him out in Vegas, and he was that big in high school. And kids would try to come near him, and he would just swat them away like flies.
It's the same thing with Deuce, though. It's like this is what an elite guy should look like against kids that he could put in the hospital.
When I watched Darnell Washington's film, I used to smell things burning. I would just be like, oh my God, something's burning. This guy's lighting stuff on fire.
He was now, and I'll say this, and I stand by this because I saw him play it at the time. I think Darnell Washington would have been one of the most special pass rushers in the college game had he chosen to go that route. In high school, he was
that's terrifying.
He was completely unstoppable. I mean, you're talking about high school sized kids, so it's like 230-pound lineman trying to stop a LeBron James clone.
A lot of nervous mamas in the stands.
Dude just over here like,
Man, if this huddle tape of Deuce Robinson was set to a song, what would it be?
Biggie.
The Imperial March.
It would be explicit, whatever it is.
It would be Biggie. Can't you see? Sometimes your words just hypnotize me.
I mean, goodness.
Here's the other thing, and we haven't talked about this a lot, but going into National Signing Day next week, this guy is going to sign, but he's going to be a 24 guy, essentially. That's Walker Lyons.
Yeah.
And Georgia's in heavily there. I mean, kind of like a two-team race. Georgia's in there. Now, he'll be a 24 enrollee, so it doesn't necessarily affect you this year. But you're talking about another 4-star tight end. So you have a potential in this class to sign 4 4-star tight ends. Deuce Robinson being 5-star, actually. So you got 1 5 and 3 3 or 3 4s. I'm sorry.
Todd Hartley, just send this episode of the Georgia Show to your agent. You're welcome. Let's chop some wood. It's a Chopping Wood Wednesday. We miss Palmer. He is covering the Dogs basketball game.
Hey, by the way, I want to throw something in there real quick about Walker Lyons, because I just I'd had this thought, and I just wanted to kind of Walker Lyons. Everybody talks about Deuce Robinson, next Brock Bowers, right? All right, well, whatever. I disagree. I think he's kind of a different style guy. Walker Lyons may be the next Brock Bowers. Like that actually there's actually a comparison there. There's actually a guy there.
Kyle Pitts and Brock Bowers coming in the same class.
Who knows, man? Like my man Jake Roos in a Toyota, alarm going off.
Oh, God,
who knows, man?
Yeah.
Little inside joke there,
I thought you were referencing my Dilaudid addled state.
No.
Regional
not the time you had to be put in the hospital and I had to sit with you. No, not that time.
Give us the 1-minute version of that story. You can't just throw that out there.
My man Roos woke up one morning after I made some chili. We found out later my chili was not a contributing factor. Okay. He woke up the next morning. He was interning with me. And we were supposed to go see the kid that Shy Tuttle that played at Tennessee.
Yep.
We were going to go see Shy Tuttle that day. Roos wakes up the next morning and goes, "Dude, I'm dying. I feel like somebody has stabbed me in the stomach." And he ended up having to go to the emergency room. I don't know what was going on with him. He had some kind of intestinal disease.
Yeah.
He was hallucinating. He was
they gave me Dilaudid. I'd thrown up all night, and then they hit me with this big dose of Dilaudid because the pain just couldn't subside. So they gave me Dilaudid, which if you've never had Dilaudid, it's essentially legal heroin. Okay,
yeah. You should not be near a vehicle on it.
You shouldn't be. You're barely alive. I was talking to the door. There was a face in the door.
That was the best part. Is he was pointed away from me and he was talking to me, and I said, "Hey man, what are you saying?" He goes, "Oh Jesus Christ, I saw your face in that door over there."
You were Matthew McConaughey at the end of True Detective.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely,
100%.
Man, it was all because of Jake Rose chili.
Yeah. We determined that was
let's chop some wood. Guys, look, the Georgia-Alabama rivalry is alive and well. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm going to write something about it tomorrow. I've been thinking about this for the last few days, but just haven't put any words on the page. But look, there is a big difference in what you want to say about Georgia right now and what you want to say about Alabama. Kirby Smart versus Saban, the dynasty ending. I'm not an expert in dynasties, but I believe there's a little bit of overlap when you look back on the actual dynasties and, world history. And just because Alabama's dynasty may still be lurking, it's the dragon in the cave. It's taken a few arrows between the scales, but it's not dead yet. Georgia is starting its own thing, and you go on a three-peat, no one will ever be able to say anything about you ever again. But when you look at Alabama fans freaking out because a guy like David Pollock says Georgia is in control of college football, it can be true at the same time that Georgia is both in control of college football and Alabama's dynasty is still on life support, and it can still come back to life and get you. But what do we look at when we talk about college football legacies and dynasties and coaching legacies? It's all about resume versus recency. And this was the debate going into this season between Kirby Smart and Dabo Swinney, if you remember correctly. And it just caused a huge stir when people like Paul Feinbaum would say, well, Kirby is a better coach than Dabo Swinney. In a couple months, we'll see these coaching rankings come out that are totally arbitrary. Yeah, that's why Kirby Smart is ranked above Nick Saban right now. He doesn't have the resume that Saban has as a head coach, but he's done more for you recently. So have all the fun you want to on Twitter with the Alabama fans. I personally don't see the need for y'all to mix it up. You should be like 3-year Letterman. You can't open the door with all the rings on your hands. You shouldn't be able to type insults back at Bama fans because you got 2 rings on your fingers. But have fun. You've earned it. You've taken a lot of trash talk from them as well over the past few years. But just keep that in mind. When people try to come at you and say, well, Georgia doesn't have the dynasty Bama does yet. That's fine. They don't. But they are better than Bama is right now. That's me chopping wood.
Listen, the dynasty goalposts moving fast. Derrick Henry's moving them. I saw a TikTok the other day with Taylor Lewan and the other cat that played with the Falcons, that Compton, Jonathan Compton or whatever his name, or I can't remember his name.
Compton DI.
Will
Tante Shipman, baby.
Yeah. Straight out of Compton.
Shipman.
We're gonna do a whole. We're gonna get a Dante. We are gonna do a whole Dante.
Listen, bark after dark. Roos and I talked about it today.
Barf after dark.
No, bark after dark.
Okay.
There may be some barfing on that show too. We're gonna do a bark after dark show at some point very soon. Roos and I have talked about it. It's gonna be Jake and Jake. We got to find a producer for it. We're trying to enlist Wes. We got to see what he's got going on. He's got another baby on the way.
Maybe we'll just make him do it.
We may
probably be as effective.
I bet he won't sleep, bro.
Yeah.
No, but we're gonna do a whole show on Compton DI.
Yeah,
baby, because that Dante Shipman is the man. We love him. We really wish we got you. We may try to have him on.
Oh my God,
I bet he would come on. He's about our age.
I think so.
Yeah, he probably looks older than us, but no, I mean, watching. I've been watching a lot of like different videos, YouTube. I love those shorts. I mean, I am the target audience for a Facebook reel or a YouTube short or a TikTok or whatever they call them on Instagram. I am the target audience because I love them. I'll scroll through 2,000 of them in a night.
Yeah, you can just sit there and drool all over yourself and watch 500 of them.
Yeah, and I
do that regularly.
I send them to Roos every now and then. I've seen several with Derrick Henry just being like, no, Georgia's not doing, no, Georgia's not this. And I don't know, man. It's there. I mean, it's on the cusp. And I'm not saying Georgia's going to go back to back to back. And if they do, I really hope Kirby Smart doesn't give us a cringe moment like he did when he said, you didn't tell me we were going to go back to back.
He might just retire.
Oh, God. I hope he does before he makes another comment like that, because that really made me cringe.
Interesting trivia. Does anybody, there's been one three-peat ever.
Minnesota,
that is correct. Yeah.
Nobody's ever
happened in the modern.
But nobody has ever three-peated with more than 8 games in a season or 9 games.
I mean, those cats were still like farming the land after practice. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're not talking about the modern era at all.
But yeah, I mean,
Stetson Bennett can tell you all about it.
There's a lot of mental gymnastics to try and make it seem like Georgia hasn't seized, at least temporary control of the thing. They have. And Georgia can seize long-term control of it if they go ahead and win again and kind of set history, because they've already made history one time. And I don't think a big enough deal has been made out of it, is the fact that Georgia won 2 in a playoff era. And I don't know, man, that's different.
15-0,
that is different.
Replacing all the draft picks.
And the thing is I think Georgia has done it in kind of an accelerated playoff era, because Georgia had a playoff game against Tennessee on November the 5th.
Yep.
And then Georgia had a
Quarterfinal game.
playoff game against, a pseudo playoff game against LSU, in December. I mean, if they lose, yeah, they're in, but then they have to play in Arizona, come back to Athens, then play again in Los Angeles. And then they find a way to win a game where they probably got outplayed for most of it against Ohio State. And then, I don't know, just completely, flay, and just lay somebody out in front of everybody, just like a wake for TCU in a magical season. That was a hell of a season by Georgia, and I don't know if it gets we haven't really, and I don't want to sound ungrateful when I say this or negative, but we haven't really had a chance to unpack it yet because of all of the kind of the frustration and sadness and everything that hit Georgia so soon after.
I think that's the reality of it. It's not us getting our priorities wrong. It's just what it is. I mean, it's been a pretty jarring turn of events, to say the least. So
the worst offseason that you could possibly imagine off of the back of something like that so far to this point. I'm not saying it will continue that way, but I think that the stretch after the parade essentially has been about as bad as you could imagine it would.
And I want to go ahead and chop wood on that, because I was talking with a good friend of mine today, and you remember I remember when I got my first job, I worked at Zaxby's. I was 16 years old, and I remember working late one night. We had this kind of late cleanup thing, and I told my mom, I woke up the next morning. I was supposed to be, I worked late on a Friday night, and I was supposed to get up early and go work at Zaxby's at 11 a.m. Or 10:30 a.m. on Saturday. And I got up and I was like, Mom, I don't want to go. I'm exhausted. And she says, you're going. And I said, why? And she said, because one, you said you're going to go to work. And two, you said you promised, you said that you were going to go to work. And at some point, you're going to actually have something that's going to happen to you where you're not going to be able to go to work. And that needs to be the time where you need to take your time and not go to work. And I always thought that was weird. That applies to the Georgia fan, because let me tell you something, Georgia fans, a lot of you squandered an opportunity to celebrate a national championship last year. You were so worried about, oh my God, Stetson's coming back. And oh my God, Jermaine Burton's on his way out. And oh my God, we got all these guys leaving. And you kind of bellyached all last offseason. And now this offseason has brought true tragedy. It's brought true sadness. It's brought like, oh my God, some true shockingness. And you wasted last offseason as a chance to, you got to embrace these opportunities. And even now, I know, the death of Devin Willock and Chandler LaCroix will never be forgotten. And those two meant so much to the program. And, we can talk all we want about the way that's being reported and what the AJC said, which, I am definitely not aligned with. But you get so limited opportunities to deal with this. And you had an opportunity last offseason without any true real life ramifications coming in and just slapping you in the face and keeping you from doing it. And this year it's actually happened. And now you're trying to figure out, okay, how do we enjoy a second straight national championship? Because you didn't really enjoy the first one the way it was. So my hope for all Georgia fans, and what I'm chopping wood on, is, listen, when we've all had a chance to grieve, because we do need a chance to grieve, and the memories of Devin Willock and Chandler LaCroix, and you've said bye to A.D. Mitchell and determined whether he's going to be a damn good dog or not. And we've dealt with the Ra Thomas situation, and all that's in the books. I hope you take a moment and you look at, you look at a Sports Illustrated like this is from last year, or you look at a media guide or something like that, and you think, man, Georgia won back-to-back titles in the playoff era, and I enjoyed it. And I hope for everybody listening to this, And everybody that gets wind of this, and if you catch this on a short, if they cut it up and put it up later, enjoy it, because it may not happen again for 41 freaking years. And you need to be aware of that, because sometimes, listen, I really became a Georgia fan during the Garrison Hurst era, 1991, 92, 93, 94, that whole era. And I went through it all. And I thought the Mark Richt years were the gold standard. And then all of a sudden, Georgia won a national title. And by the time Georgia did any of that, it was a job and it wasn't fandom for me. So enjoy it while you can.
Look at USC, and that was really well said, Jake. Look at Southern Cal, man. I mean, go back to that game of the century against Texas. They haven't been the same since. And I think everything you just said was really what I was feeling. And I really try not to get too emotional when I come on the show and like talk to our audience. But I think that's why I was more emotional about the AD Mitchell situation. I'm not going to dive back into it all. Whether you think he leaves a good legacy or is a DGD or whatever, that really wasn't at the heart of it for me. At the heart of it was everything that you just said, Jake. And like, are we really going to sit here and bellyache about this guy leaving when you've just watched back-to-back natties and you've seen a tragedy hit the football team? Like, is that really what needs to be debated, or the hill that we need to sit here and debate right now? And I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there's a case to be made for focusing on that, because it's easier to focus on it than sad news. But that is really what I didn't verbalize too well that night when I did, and when we did talk about AD Mitchell's legacy. I think that was kind of the pee under my mattress. I don't care what you think about it, and he doesn't either. But
somebody mentioned that on the board actually the other day, and they said, that the idea, they said Dog Nation needs therapy. And then basically, you've been able to,
I think it was Matthew C.
Yeah, it was. You've been able to ignore a lot of stuff because you've been able to turn your attention to a lot of things and focus on a lot of things because there's been a lot of bad things, So you've been able to, you haven't been able to take it all in the way that you should, or even process what's happened. I mean, we're still in the very early stages of all of this, the tragedy that befell everybody. And yeah, I think that was tough. I think people are still dealing with that. I really don't want to have to follow. I don't want to have to follow Jake Rowe after that insane soliloquy with props. But I guess I'll go in and chop a little bit of wood myself. And since we're talking about appreciation, actually, Jake, it kind of skews into mine. Georgia fans need to be appreciating already what's happening in the class of 2024. Because Georgia is off to an absolutely stellar start when you're talking about that cycle. The Bulldogs are with, I think, at this moment, 8 commits. You're talking about 7 of them 4 stars, 1 3-star, but a guy that they really feel good about in Sokovie White at the wide receiver position, a great athlete, does a little bit of it all. You got your quarterback pretty well locked down, and the potential maybe that you get another one, perhaps the number 1 in the nation if you get real lucky. One of the top running backs already in. The number 2 and number 3 safety for the class. Number 5 linebacker per the consensus. Number 49 overall player in America in the wide receiver in Carr. And then, the number 1 tight end in America in Landon Thomas. Georgia off to an absolutely stellar start. And we talked about National Signing Day a little bit. Obviously, this won't matter as much because the ink won't dry. But there's a huge Georgia target that's going to pop on February 1st as well, and that's Ellis Robinson. Georgia in a strong, strong spot with Ellis Robinson right now. I consider them to be the favorite going into that decision. Alabama has been kind of right there lurking, and visits have seemed to sway this thing throughout. But Georgia, I think the team to beat for Ellis Robinson. How huge to add the number 1 cornerback in this class to go along with what you already have. Appreciated, Dog fans. 2024 recruiting on fire right now, and I think it's only going to get better as this period rolls on. And then once we get into the summer, man, I think things are really, really going to turn up to another level.
one of the highest floor cornerbacks I have ever seen at the high school level, Ellis Robinson. Like one of those guys that you're like, hey, if he turns out to be a mediocre to decent corner, that is his floor, because he can be, extremely elite, or he can be good. And it really doesn't seem like there's any other possibility.
Yeah. I mean,
That's exciting stuff, guys. Man, this has been a really good recruiting episode. Just all the Deuce Robinson highlights, this buzz on Ellis Robinson.
George is racking up the Robinsons. Meet the
Robinsons
Robinsons at Georgia right
no
now.
question.
Roderick.
Roderickson.
Roderick Branson, Ellis.
Yeah.
Deuce.
Hell,
Deuce. Jesus.
the Robinsons, baby. Let
I'm
me
so
ask you one thing.
I selfishly, I really want Georgia to land Deuce Robinson because it reminds me so much of my middle school football coach, Coach Hedden. We would play volleyball. He would pay no attention during gym class. He would sit and read the paper and drink. Everybody assumed it was coffee, but we thought the rumor was always that it was mint julep.
Yeah.
And Coach would sit there and read the paper, and we'd always turn to him and we'd be like, "Hey, was it in or was it out?" And he'd be like, "Out." Deuce. Like all the time, man. Deuce was his go-to.
I don't know if they had that coach over at Collins Hill where Wes was at, but they had one at Atkinson County. His name was Craig Dyer. He was our defensive coordinator, and let me tell you something. At Atkinson County High School, the coaches smoked in the coach's office during the school day. They called roll at PE, and they went to the coach's office, and they burned Marlboro Reds like they were fat lightered. Okay, and then they had styrofoam cups, and it may have been sweet tea, it may have been George Dickel.
Yeah,
nobody knows.
Coach Hedden was one of a kind, man, an absolute legend in Fannin County high school football. Miss the guy, man. Gave me the nickname the Rooster, so I got a super soft spot for Coach Hedden.
Love that.
Also, I wanted to ask you, Ro, you said you worked at Zaxby's. I know there wasn't one at Pearson.
No, Douglas. There was one in Douglas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and a guy owned it named Danny DeMesmerson. We were the last Zaxby's in the state to take orders via ticket. Like where you had the shorthand that you write on the ticket, and you slap it up there like you're like a short order cook at Waffle House or whatever. Yeah. I mean,
got a 5 tender plate going down.
Yeah, never had so much fun making $5.35 an hour.
We didn't have a coach that we suspected of drinking on the job.
There was one though. That was.
Yeah,
it was almost certainly happening.
But our weight training coach Jim Tiller would he was about my height, and he was like in decent shape for the age he was at the time. And he would just be dripping sweat by the time we'd come in for the early morning lifts. Like he was working out already. But his drink of choice was Mountain Dew. And he had the same exact like Subway plastic cup that you take with your to-go order. I don't know if he ran it through the dishwasher at home or if he ever cleaned it at all. But
he rinsed that bad boy out.
He was always drinking a Mountain Dew or Mellow Yellow, one of the two.
He rinsed that thing out at the nearest teacher workroom,
like the water fountain.
Yeah,
no question.
With no PSI at all.
Bruce knows what those teacher workrooms are like. What kind of things are said in those teacher workrooms?
Oh boy, that's some foul things.
I don't normally do this at the end of the show, but we're kind of running up against it, and we all gotta go to bed and do whatever we do after the show. But I was thinking about the quarterback commits, the possibilities in 2024, Roos and Rowe, and everyone watching. I want y'all to think ahead. I'm going to make a note of this. What did Kirby Smart learn from the QB battle of Fields and Fromm that everyone just raked him over the coals for? Let's say Raiola and Puglisi do come in. I wonder what Kirby learned from managing that much talent in one quarterback room. You don't have to answer now, but I'm curious about it.
Trust your eyeballs, man. Trust what you see.
I think
in real time.
My thought would be, and I think it's something that we've seen carry over since then, consistency matters.
Best ability is availability.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll dig into that because I'm especially if Raiola does end up coming to Georgia. I think that's going to be
Yeah, I think we'll probably do a couple podcasts about that.
just entire episodes about it. No, he did not dip in the cup. Matthew C. asked me about Coach Tiller. All right, y'all have a great night. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe, hit like. We'll be back on Sunday night, and we'll have a few more days before signing day. Then we got a week to kind of break things down now, but who knows what will happen.
Hey,
So
listen, I need to shout
mock
out my
drafts
man.
will come out.
I got to shout out my man Matthew C. right here talking about the Topo Chico and the tequila and lime and ranch. That's my jam. That's my jam. We go through.
Also Mexican Coke.
Yeah, Mexican Coke's amazing too, but those ranch waters with and let me tell you something, low calorie, good stuff. We roll through some Espolon tequila around the Rowe household.
Just mix in a water. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.